before we start off with our service today, we're going to start a little differently this morning because each of you, as you came in this morning, were handed a piece of paper and a pen, I hope. That piece of paper is for the juice of our talk today, and that's going to be your questions. This morning's an opportunity for you to ask our guest reverend today, Reverend Thomas DeShutter from Nanaimo. Welcome. And then Reverend Frank will be there. And so those pieces of paper are for you to put out any questions that might be on your heart right now. Anything of a spiritual nature related to unity, something that you think these two reverends would just be the perfect people to answer this morning. We invite you to jot those questions down, and then we're going to have a basket, and you can drop them in the basket, and they will choose questions out of the basket to answer as the content of our talk today. Well, welcome everybody to Unity today. It is so good to see you all here. My name is Dyann Castro-Wehr, and I'm your service assistant today. So today, we get the joy of having two ministers facilitate our service today. Reverend Thomas DeShutter is visiting from Nanaimo. Is it Nanaimo Unity? Nanaimo Unity. And then Reverend Frank as well is here. And we're delighted to have Cheryl Hodges for music ministry, and Reverend Thomas is also accompanying her on the drums as well. Okay, so do we have a talk title today? Is there? Ask the Ministers. Ask the Ministers. Okay, that's our talk title today, so stay tuned for that.
Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surrounds us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. That we rest in God and say amen.
I invite you to settle comfortably in your chair and take a few deep, cleansing breaths. If you notice any distracting thoughts, simply notice and allow them to pass through. Returning your focus on your breath. Notice any places in your body where your breath can soften and allow a release of any tension. Allow your breath a comfortable fullness. And from this quiet place, we open our hearts to all those who might be in need of prayer. We affirm the presence of the divine in all things. We bless the path of the healing of body, mind, and spirit. Feel free to speak the names of those in your heart whom you'd like to offer this prayer. Together, we hold a vision of the unfolding of the good for all of these prayer intentions. And settling deeper still, coming to a place of quiet within, I invite you to open your heart and open your ears to this poem by the poet John O'Donohue. And it's called On Waking. And I'll be reading it twice for us. On waking. I give thanks for arriving safely in a new dawn, for the gift of eyes to see the world, the gift of mind to feel at home in my life, the waves of possibility breaking on the shore of dawn, the harvest of the past that awaits my hunger, and all the furthering this new day will bring. I give thanks for arriving safely in a new dawn, for the gift of eyes to see the world, the gift of mind to feel at home in my life, the waves of possibility breaking on the shore of dawn, the harvest of the past that awaits my hunger, and all the furthering this new day will bring. Let's take these words into a time of silence. In gratitude for that still, small voice that comes to us in the silence. We say thank you. Thank you, God.
Thank you, Dyann. Since today's topic is about questions, I thought it was maybe a good time to play Questioning Mind, a song that I wrote. It's on the new album. And I want to thank Minister Thomas for joining me on drums today. This is going to be fun. I embrace the questioning mind. Here are the answers I'm here to find. I talk of possibilities, of the who, what, whens, and wheres I see. What do I want? What is my passion? What are my core beliefs? What do you want? What is your passion? How might our paths agree? We embrace the questioning mind, and here are some answers we're here to find. We walk in possibilities of the who, what, whens, and wheres we see. What do we want? What is our passion? Can we find equality? Can we be stable in an unstable world? What should our new prayers be? We embrace a questioning mind. Here are the answers we're here to find. We'll talk of possibilities, of the who, what, whens, and wheres we see. What do we want? What is our passion? Can we find equality? Can we be stable in an unstable world? What should our new prayers be? We embrace a questioning mind. Here are the answers we're here to find. We talk of possibilities, of the who, what, when, of the who, what, whens, of the who, what, whens, and whens we see. Thank you. Thank you, Thomas.
Check, check. Oh, it's on. Checking, checking. Hi, everybody. So my mic's working and yours isn't. Well, I'm glad you all came out today. My master plan has worked.
You came with somebody today.
Yes, I did, actually. So my wonderful daughter, one of my daughters, but my wonderful daughter, Brooke, is here with me. She just spent a week at something called Prodigy Camp in Leavenworth, Washington, which is for artists, filmmakers, musicians. It's her second time going back, and there are amazing people there, but she is a filmmaker. She just graduated high school, will be going to film school starting in January as a director in a program in Vancouver, so congratulations to her.
Brooke. Exciting times.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, we rehearsed for 2 minutes. We did come up in case nobody put a question in. We had a couple questions for each other, but I think we don't have to do
We
those.
don't need to do
Yeah,
that.
okay.
But can I, before we get started, can I just say something? So I watched your talk from last week on mystics. Do you all know how fortunate you are?
Oh, thank you.
Do you? And I'm not.
Thank you.
I'm not BSing.
Yeah.
I watched that and I thought maybe I should go back to school because that was amazing.
Yeah,
and I took some notes.
Oh,
'cause
good.
I tend to take notes, but you talked about things like the lion, ego, human, Christ consciousness, the Gospel of Thomas, which of course I am named after Doubting Thomas for all those that are wondering. My mother, and she told me that the whole time. She said, "You are named after Doubting Thomas." My mic is failing. Is the battery gone? Maybe.
We have back. Aha, my master plan worked.
Yes, that's it. No, it's back. It's back. And you brought this quote: "God can do nothing more without us than we can do without God. God's will works through us." From Meister Eckhart. Yeah. And the Galatians, "Can I enjoy the win?" Oh, so you talked about the soccer game.
Oh, and they won.
Yeah, but the interesting piece. So the interesting piece I thought was, could I go and enjoy that game regardless of who won?
Yeah.
That was a great question. Like, could I just celebrate whoever won? Do I have to be on a side?
Yeah. And also, Dyann and I had this talk too. Like, if we really, then the biggest question, the takeaway is, if we sink into this idea of oneness, and then I see a person sitting on the street, who's in distress for whatever reasons, and probably a lot of reasons, and I was telling them, it leaves me shuddering. If we're one and this person's sitting on a street, then what the heck? I don't have an answer to that. I just feel like what the heck is mine to do in this moment? And it's certainly not to ignore it. I know that. But what is mine to do? And it's complicated, right? We all know these issues are complicated. But it brings this great question of when we sit in that energy of unitive consciousness. Yeah. And we get, the good news is, when you're in joy, I get to be there too. And when you're in distress, then I'm invited into that too. And it's empathy. It's not like, the difference, empathy and sympathy. I can stay solid to support the person who's in distress. But anyhow, it left me with like for the whole week, we were kind of in that energy of, what does it really mean when we're in that consciousness? Yeah.
I don't know, when Brooke and I went to the baseball game last night, to the Mariners game, and because we don't have a Major League Baseball team up in Vancouver, and certainly not on Vancouver Island. And on our walk there were people living on the street, some of them doing drugs right there on the street. And I see that in Vancouver as well, and that's exactly it. My heart, I don't even know, like I just wonder how that happens. And as a musician, back when I was playing rock and roll, I was this close to being in that world. I was in a band with somebody who lost his path to heroin. And we were in a band together. I watched it. It just shakes me whenever I see that, because I don't know what to do. And if we are one and all, it's like, that's me too. I'm in that person as well somewhere.
It seems to me as when my heart is open to it, I'm like, I don't know what to do, but I won't close my heart to this situation. I see many people nodding, That's my call, is to be open. And the people that Jesus spoke to, I think this whole thing, the constant, the kingdom of heaven is like this. And the people we're talking to were really struggling at the time. It wasn't the few wealthy, and it wasn't the Romans, it wasn't the conquerors. It was the people who were in grinding poverty and really, really struggling. And Jesus shows up to those struggling people and says, hey, guess what? Good news. I got good news. So in this distress, there's a place to be the good news, to be that good news for others. And I think, I always think what I love was Mother Teresa, who said, it's not about success. It's about faithfulness. Can we show up as that, and then don't have to keep score about did it work or were we successful, or and that gives me a lot of relief that I could just be that, and open-hearted is, yeah.
I think that's, it starts with us, right? It starts with us, and if we are that light and we are that love from the inside out, that is the place to begin. There's no fixing out there. Like, there's nothing. If you think of it in terms of, there's nothing actually broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. It's just the world is doing what it's doing. And I don't know if you've all seen that Netflix, The History of the Planet, with Morgan Freeman.
Oh, yeah.
Doing the, what is it, the narration?
Yeah.
Like, I think of that and I just go, well, when the planet's had enough of us, we're done. Like seriously, what are we going to do against? Because clearly when you see that show and the 6 or 7 times that the planet has remade itself, it's kind of like, when we've had our time here, it'll be time to go, and there's not much we're going to do about it. It's, nature has its way of just going, okay.
Yeah. But I love that it's not about fixing anything.
There's nothing broken. Since my time at Unity, I've come to this place where everything is actually perfect, but not in the way, because people think of perfect as, oh, it went the way I wanted it to, right? But that's not, to me, what perfect is. Perfect is actually that everything that is in the soup of this life is brought me to this point right here. I could be nowhere else but here. This is the only place I could end up being in this moment, is right here, and it's perfect. Whether I'm enjoying myself or not, that's entirely up to me, right? That's our choice, as Fillmore would say, right? With our mind, our ideas of where we are, but absolutely everything is perfect. The only way it could go is the way it's been.
Yeah, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 Are we going to answer questions at some
Yeah.
point, or just
Well,
jam?
and I would add to that, and we've been talking about these levels of consciousness, and one of them suggested, this is the O'Malley book, is this: we get out of win-lose, and we just say, what if life is for me? And you've just been playing with it, living in that energy of, this is for me. Or we could choose, it's all against me, or something's wrong, or it's got to be fixed. But I've been in that energy. I've sat in that consciousness, and it just feels like I don't. It's like things get cloudy and I don't move. And when I sit in the energy, like, it's nothing to be fixed, and there's this perfection, and it's all for me. I mean, and once I can get to where it's for me, then I can start realizing, well, then I can, and it's an interesting thing, is not to fix anything, because that's almost like a level of consciousness of something's wrong, so I got to fix it. But from the level of consciousness of life is for me, and the divine is flowing through me, then when I see something in the world, in the manifest world, then from a different consciousness, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm trying to breathe into the situations with the consciousness of the divine and the unitive consciousness of oneness. And then when I show up to a situation that is seemingly wrong, I'm not showing up to fix it. Then I can just show up as life in all its fullness and possibilities and all its apparent situational, oh, that was good, that was bad. No, it's just life. It's all of it. And then I show up in a different way. And lo and behold, I mean, how many of you have said this? It's like, I changed, and then I had a new attitude, and then I met somebody, and they were a real problem, and all of a sudden, they changed. It was amazing. But who was the one that changed? Who? You know, when my consciousness, when I approach something as new consciousness, then the energy of the manifest world around me, both my perception and in actuality, there's energy that's moving. And without fixing anything, there's an energy that moves so that the manifest reality, the outpicturing of this love, allows a movement in the manifest world for the good, and it is good. It just allows it to unfold in a way that's aligned with, in harmony with the divine mind.
Yeah, I think of that as, you know, we always want to celebrate the good things that happen in our lives as if they were intended for us, but the things that maybe cause some suffering, somehow those weren't intended for us. And I don't think we get to choose. I think that the aim should be, and I'll use that word, I don't really like the word should, but I think the aim should be to see it all as there for us, the struggle and the joyfulness. And if we could put joy on the struggle and go, okay, this is actually for me to figure something out. Have you ever had that thing where it just keeps showing up in your life? You know, like you're running around in a circle and it's like, I'm back here again. It's because it's there for you, right? It's actually designed for you to embrace and love and appreciate and see how can this teach me something. And Frank and I are very different. I was trying to get a hold of Frank this week, and we finally connected, and I thought we'd have like a 5 or 7 minute call to sort of shore up me being here. I think we were on the phone for an hour and 20 minutes. And it was Frank that actually said, we have different ideas. Like he said, I like talking to you because you're different from me, which was great because I feel the same. And at no point ever in that conversation did I ever feel like I had to take his side or that he couldn't be with my thoughts. Like there was never a moment where if we disagreed on something or we maybe weren't in alignment with something, like it was a problem. And instead, I walked away from that call pondering some things that, maybe I could open myself up to that a little differently. Maybe there's something there for me to see about myself, not about Frank, although we want to do that, right? Oh, that person needs to, if they could just be a better person, that would be so much better. And it's usually not that.
Yeah, we discovered that climbing that mountain in Nanaimo.
Yes.
What was that mountain
Mount Benson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's mountains in Nanaimo. He took me up one, yeah. This was, if you ever thought, what's it like going to Unity Ministry School? This is what it's like for hours on end with your classmates. We were in a lot of classes together, so, yeah. Well, to honor people's thoughts, maybe we can answer a few questions.
Sure.
Yeah. And I did write down a couple books that you told me about, which I never would have read otherwise. Like, well, Thomas said they're good. I'll check them out. Yeah. Here's a good one. It's kind of a historical one.
Can't say it's a good one because if you
they're
don't
all
say
good
that
ones.
for the other ones.
Yeah. This one, no, they're all great. But this is
Just kidding.
I know. You want to try a historical one?
Sure, let's try a
Yeah,
historical
you might
one.
have some good info. Does you need to provide any information on the possibility that Jesus was married, not celibate, and joined with Mary Magdalene, and they had a daughter. That possibility does exist in Scripture. Have you explored some
I
of
have
that?
never heard that from Unity.
Yeah, right.
So I'll say not from Unity. I've never pondered the daughter. I've pondered the marriage or
Yeah.
the union with Mary Magdalene. I've also pondered. I watched a video. I think it was somebody from Washington State in the 70s did a documentary on proving that Jesus actually went to India and then came back and then started his ministry. That was fascinating.
Yeah. There's also that thread that, from Nag Hammadi, where they found a full extant copy of Gospel of Thomas, there was also the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And we had a classmate who, it was a big thing for him. You might remember, it was Reverend James.
Yeah,
Does that,
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
He does a whole lecture on the teachings of Mary Magdalene, who was considered maybe the, sort of like the key disciple of all the disciples of Jesus. Yeah, so she pops up. So thanks, that's a good question. I think to explore the teachings of Mary Magdalene and the role she had, and certainly in the Gospel of Thomas, she comes across as maybe the primary disciple. And Peter, who always is considered the lead disciple, was very envious of her, actually, in the
Right,
Gospel
and
of Thomas.
there's that story of Jesus stopping in at their house
Oh,
in the scripture where she stops at Mary and her sister's house, and her sister's getting mad at her.
yeah. Or and we don't know, that's Mary of Bethany, but they do say, is it the same Mary?
Yeah,
We
I've
don't
often
know.
thought it has.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Some
no,
people say it's the
she's-
same, and some people say it's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm. Anyhow.
yeah. Do you want to? Here's one.
Sure,
I didn't read the whole thing.
Okay. What are the 3 most important services we can provide to our community, country, world?
Ooh. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Ooh. So I gave that one to you.
Yeah, thank you. Or if I read it, does that mean I start?
Yeah, you
Is
go
that-
first.
You never told me that. You set me up. Yeah, he changed, yeah. That's the host
say it again,
minister gets to do that.
The 3 most.
3 most important services we can provide to our community, country, or world.
Yeah.
Wow. So I've never pondered this question. I don't even know if there's 3. For me, when I think of that, the number one thing I can do is put myself in a place of love and appreciation and gratitude for everything that is in front of me. And I think if I'm in that state of mind, I will serve the community, the world. I will be a light for others to find their way. So I don't think it's about doing something out there. I never do think it's about something out there. I always think it's about something in here, that if I provide myself with my morning meditation practice, my prayer practice, cleansing of my thoughts, and opening up my heart and work on that, that is the most important thing I can do for anybody, anywhere that I am, and even if I'm not in their presence.
Yeah.
To be the love and the light.
Yeah, I had a friend once that said, I was talking to, this is some years ago, and said, well, yeah, I went to Unity one time, but I wouldn't go back again. I said, oh, it's interesting. Why? He goes, because the most important thing is happening. Didn't you read in the news that blah, 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 blah? And you didn't even say anything about it. You know, we should be upset, and we should be out there, and we should be doing this and doing that. Of course, I don't remember what it was at that point was the big thing that was happening, because next week there's another big thing, and the next week there's another big thing, and then there's the next, I mean, you know, just the news cycles on spin, right? There's always a big thing. And this is not to, and I'm telling you this story not to make anybody wrong, because actually this person is what you'd, someone who I think is, his heart is beautiful, and he's sort of like an activist, and he's put his life on the line for movements that he really cares about, writes songs about things. It's really quite beautiful. And I thought, like, man, you're always angry. anger, but about the next thing that's going to happen, anger. And maybe it's just my personality, but I don't live in the space of I'm mad at the world all the time. Doesn't mean that we're naive to pain and suffering in the world. Doesn't mean that at all. But to your point, no matter what the circumstance is in the external world, what I can control is how I show up. And then consistently show up in a way that's looking at beyond the outer circumstances, but show and outside of naivete of like, don't tell me what's wrong. I mean, we can know and keep up. We all still get, for example, to vote. Everyone has a right, but we're in a political environment right now. I don't know if you're in the same cycle as in Canada. No. We're in an election cycle, so there's all that out there too. And just to be the people of peace and listening and hearing. We don't even have to agree, but can we be the ones that show up and seeking the oneness and the harmony? It's not easy right now, actually. I think we're in this cycle. But if life is for us, then what's going on right now in apparent conflict, if we can really say this is for us, how do we look at how we open our own hearts for transformation? How do we sit in the unity of consciousness and say, if that's true, that I'm not looking for division, I'm looking for the truth of our oneness, then how do I show up in a way that supports that unity of consciousness? How do I do that? And I don't have that written out how to do that, but I know that when I have that energy, when I show up in that energy, in that space, in that consciousness, my experience of things totally changes. Totally changes.
Well, speaking of that, I ended up as a minister. So I hadn't been to, none of you know my story. I was raised in a Catholic household. My dad was very simple. If you go to church on Sunday, you can live in this house. If you don't want to go in church on Sunday, there's the door. The other rule was you honor your mother, period. There was no discussion around those two items. So at 18, I was like, I don't want to go to church anymore. There's the door. I moved out. I hadn't been to a church in, 40 years, something like that. I went into a Unity Center in Nanaimo, where I live now. First time I went in there, Reverend Patricia was the minister at the time. And they had this opening line, what their purpose was. Unity, it was Nanaimo back then, now it's Unity Vancouver Island, but Unity of Nanaimo is a growing, unfolding, expanding center of light and love, mighty to attract its good and radiate good to others. And I had never heard a spiritual center use that type of language in that way. And then Reverend Patricia gave her talk, and by the time she finished, I sat there going, I want what she has.
Yeah.
That's the being the light. That it moved me in such a way that I went to her maybe 6 weeks later and said, I think I want to become a minister. And she was like, great, here's what you need to do. And that was it. It was just, great, here's what you need to do. But that's that three things, it's one thing. Bringing yourself in a place where somebody else, even one person might see, oh, that's a way for me to go. Wow.
Yeah. At what age did you get the calling to share your spiritual journey? You sort of just answered that.
Look at that.
That was just the other day.
Well, actually, but that's not even true. I got it when I was 14. When I was 14, I decided to become an altar boy. I don't know why. And I did it faithfully for like 2.5 years. And then I stopped. I just did not relate to the church. There was something there that just never sat with me. And I argued with my father, had great discussions with my father. We never argued. I was just like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. There's rules that don't make sense, and I'm just not on board. And he used to say to me, don't worry, son, you'll be back. Now, I don't think he intended it this way, and I wish he was alive to have had a conversation with him, because I think he would approve. I don't think he would have been like, oh, it needs to be a Catholic priest. I think he would see what's happening, and I'd be able to have a conversation with him on a level that he'd be appreciative. But I'd say very early on, I had the calling that there was something for me, and then I went for a different path for quite a while. It was not a very good path for a number of years. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Oh, the way the person asked the question is, when did you get the calling to share your spiritual journey? So it's a different kind of question. But yeah, I grew up Catholic, and I was always, I was sort of on this path, and it actually was, you probably noticed I was a Dominican brother for years. And I worked at a place called Catholic Worker House that was supporting people who were evacuated from the wars in Salvador and Guatemala. And I had a volunteer director, because I was a volunteer as a brother. Dyann was my volunteer director. We have our 34th wedding anniversary next week. So obviously
Somebody's putting their hand on Diane's shoulder with like, oh my gosh. Good for you.
So obviously the celibate Dominican brothers didn't work out for me. But I actually, it was hard to leave because I thought, I really feel like I want to do this ministry thing. And we've said before that there's a job called minister. It's a noun, and you can be ordained and be a minister. But minister's a verb. You told me that. Minister, and who told you?
It was Martha Creek.
Martha Creek.
I had a coaching call with her right after I was accepted into ministerial school. And she's from Kentucky, and she speaks like somebody from Kentucky. She goes, Thomas, honey, listen. They're going to ask you to do a whole lot of things that you're not going to want to do. Just do them. And while you're doing them, minister's a verb. Get out there and minister. Yeah. Don't wait. That was her advice to me.
Right. And so even leaving the Dominicans, I hadn't heard that, but I had the sense of I need to be a minister. And even when I was a EPA hazmat responder, it always felt to me like this is my ministry. I'm still doing it. I didn't drop it and walk away. I have to find a way to minister as a responder, as an emergency planner, and all the things I did. But I'll never be a minister because I mean, church for me, the best churches were just the stuff we were doing in our living room with our friends. We pop into a Catholic church, we pop into different things. We're like, yeah, but we were gathering people together and going, we're on to something. Meister Eckhart, we were reading people like that. And we're like, but no church talks this way. And I told you, I met I went to a Methodist church a few times, and I got to know the minister there. And I asked him, I've told you this story before, like, your sermons, I love you and I love the people, but your sermons, the things you say, he goes, what do you believe? I said, the Christ is in all of us, this divine energies is in every person. It's not just singular to Jesus. I mean, Jesus is way short for all of us. He goes, stop. You need to go talk to Reverend Joe at Unity. And I said, who's Reverend Joe and what the heck is Unity? Yeah, so the Methodist minister told me about Unity. And as soon as I walked in, oh, and he said, by the way, tell Reverend Joe he owes me one. So I'm one of these days I got to send one of you over to the Methodist. Yeah, I gotta pay him back. But much the same way. And when I walked into Unity the first day, we walked in the first day and we were like, whoa, we thought we made this up. And there's a church that actually does it. Yeah. So anyhow. I think we have.
So as I thought of that question, does playing music count as a spiritual journey? Okay. Yeah. So I started playing. I wanted to play drums when I was in grade 3. So I was 7 years old that I first saw my neighbor had a drum kit, and I went down his stairs into the basement, and there was a drum set, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I was like, what is that? And he let me play it for about 8.2 seconds before he kicked me off. And then my parents got me a drum kit when I was in grade 7. And so from grade 3 to grade 7, I bugged them all the time. I want to get a drum. And so that was my spiritual journey, I think, began there at a drum kit.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can relate, musicians. I knew time was going to go fast. Why don't you look at this one, because you have good experience in Unity of Vancouver Island.
What might we do to market Unity of Bellingham to greater...
Whatcom County?
Greater Whatcom County, there you go, yeah. More people locally need to hear our message. So there's a language thing here. Can I bring it up? There's this idea that they need to hear our message. Do they? Do people need to hear? So I'm not sure about that, because I struggle with this. Like, how do we grow? How do we get more people here? Do we need more people here? Maybe we just need the right people. I don't know. Like, it's a really great question to sit and ponder of what is ours to do. What is ours to do? And so I just became the senior minister at Unity Vancouver Island as of July 1st. And my mentor, thank you, Reverend Patricia, decided to swap spots with me. I was her assistant minister, and so now she's my assistant minister, and I'm the senior minister, so I get to make all the decisions and tell her what to do.
2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah. And she said her greatest joy as a minister was actually finding me and then nurturing me to become a minister and replace her. And she said there's no better thing she could have done as a minister, which is, I was like, wow, that's really kind of you. But I get that, right? To have actually done your own legacy planning, I think that's pretty cool. So I think about this a lot. What might we do to market Unity of Bellingham to greater Whatcom County? And so you kind of ask the question, well, does social media work? I don't know, because I look at my daughter who's 18 and the stuff that she's into social media-wise, I'm not there. I don't know that I could, maybe I could go on TikTok and try to be funny or something.
Well, let's ask a question. How many of you came because somebody invited you? Wait, that's a lot. How many of you came because, what might be another reason? How many of you came because you read it in a newspaper, read it on some... How many of you came because you saw it in social media? Okay. How many of you grew up in Unity and this is just always what you've done? Oh, a handful. Okay. Who else? Who didn't raise their hand? Oh, how many came because a counselor suggested you come? Oh, that's an interesting one. Who else? Well, so it's a friend, or just, what do you mean, like at a party you heard it? Oh, so how many just kind of heard it floating in the environment? Oh, a bunch. Who hasn't raised their hand yet? So interesting. Yeah, you guys, how did you hear about it? You're looking for it yourself? You looked it up on a website? Ah. Right. So it's yeah. And you were seeking, so you were listening, and then sort of word of mouth. Wow. So word of mouth, being invited. I married a licensed Unity teacher. Marrying into it. Yeah, that's an interesting marketing thing. Okay, we need more people. So I don't know. Don't need more people, but that we're near Home Depot. How many of you came because you saw the sign on the street? Oh, so it's okay. So it's interesting when we think of marketing, nobody raised their hand for something in the paper or something on social media. Not that wouldn't work, and there's a little bit of counseling, but it seems like when people talk about it, and so, oh yeah, Krista. Daily Word, yeah, Daily Word. A lot of yeses. Yeah. So, well, what I love about this is there's a sense of like, we would, as a church, let's figure out a way where maybe we're going to market it. But what we hear over and over was the marketing, if you will, that invites people in is a combination of telling our family, telling our friends, inviting people, or just talking about it in social circles. Boldly talking about, I go to Unity and I like it and it's pretty cool, and just telling people and keeping that in the ethers. But actual programmatic things that go out in a marketing sense, nobody raised their hand for any kind of official. Not that we don't want to have a website presence and everything. Of course we do. But yeah, there was one more. Oh. Okay. So every time you get engaged or you go get your hair cut or any service that you might get in the community, it really comes down to a matter of talking about the experience you're having and sharing it from a perspective of how it's changed my life. Yeah, Jane. Yeah, it is very attractive. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just want to add this, that part of your social connection is your social media. And I think so what I can say for us is I have taken on a very, very bold stand at our center. We just spent roughly, $12,000 on hiring somebody to make reels and shorts of our Sunday talks, and then to put our meditations up on YouTube and Facebook. And we also did a 33 or 34 interviews with people in the community about spirituality and put them on YouTube. And we have seen people come in because of that, very specific. And the biggest training that I've had to undertake with people is to condition them, yes, I use that word, condition them, to share and like. How many here are on Facebook and use it? Honestly, like you use Facebook, right? How often do you share anything that's posted about your Unity Center?
No, a few.
So a few. But the algorithm works this way. The more people that share it and engage in it and write a comment, not just an emoji, but actually get past 5 words as a comment, the algorithm goes, oh, this is popular. I will show it to more people like them, like that person, your likes and interests. And then it starts to pop up and filter out that way. So part of our social environment today is not just the people that we see, but it's actually the people that we don't see in the social media circles. And I know it's hard to think, oh, I should do that, and you don't have to, but there is a pathway, I believe, to getting the unity message out. And the last thing I'll say on that is the other thing I've thought about is, the big billboards you get on the side of the road? I've always thought we should just stick the minister's face up there. Seriously. It says, welcome to Unity, we do spirituality different. And that's it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Leave them wondering what the heck that is. Anybody who's interested, you can put your website down if you want, but...
Jene, did you get that down? Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah. Sorry, you had something. Okay. There we go.
Oh,
yeah, and
nice.
oh, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm gonna put a plug in. Thomas is on. I've shown many times Insight Timer, and Thomas is one of the teachers on there. I've been to some of his talks, and they're very interactive. And he's in the middle of a talk, and he's reading the chat, and the conversations go all around. But
I usually do 2 lives a week.
Yeah.
It was the best training ground. So when Martha Creek said, get out there and minister, that's what I did. I signed up as a teacher on Insight Timer. I've done almost 300 live classes on Insight Timer now since I went on there. And it was the best training ground because I can sit in pretty much anything now. Because I've had some people that have not liked me on Insight Timer and want to take over the conversation, and I'm okay with that. It's like, yeah, no worries.
The other thing is just a plug. They have those great YouTube little podcasts that you started. So on the front page of your Unity of Vancouver Island, if you check it out, Thomas interviewing local people on their little YouTube. I love those. Those are really effective. Yeah. Anyhow, look at the time. I know we have to.
I think we answered like 3
Well,
questions.
yeah. Well, I mean, but the other thing is, the beautiful thing about this is, and you're welcome to kind of take a look at some of these. These are really good feedback for potential material for upcoming talks and discussions and spiritual study and classes and everything else. So this was great, a great feedback session as well. So thank you, everyone, for
Thank you for
thank
having
you, Thomas.
me.
Yeah.
Thank you, all of you, for allowing me to be here. Yeah.
And for the drums and for the music as well. Thanks, Thomas.